Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Excited to be here.
Me too. And today we're going way beyond like the polished pop stars and venturing into the world of independent music on YouTube.
Oh, yeah?
We got 3 videos and I think you picked all of these out.
I did, yeah.
They're serving up raw, unfiltered emotions. So let's break it down.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how these artists are using YouTube as their platform.
Yeah,
It's a glimpse into how young people are expressing themselves.
absolutely. And it's not just about the feelings, it's how those feelings are like woven into the music.
Yeah.
We've got a song about like the hustle, another about desire and escape, and then one that gets really real about the complications of relationships.
Yeah, it's like 3 different snapshots of like contemporary life, all through this lens of music.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, so let's dive into that first track. It's called Bop.
Okay.
It's by All Day Whitted. And right away,
Okay.
you get this confident, almost swaggering energy from the artist.
Yeah.
He's rapping about cars, money, women. It's a full-on display of what we consider making it.
Yeah, and you mentioned in your notes that you were interested in how the American dream is portrayed in music today. I think this is a really interesting case study for that.
Totally. Yeah.
It definitely taps into that classic idea of like material success.
Mm-hmm.
But it also has like this modern twist to it.
Totally. He even uses the term choosing fee. It's like he's got options.
Yeah.
And is calling the shots.
Yeah.
It's not just about having money. It's about like having the power to choose.
Right, right.
What do you make of that?
I think it reflects a shift in how we view success now.
Okay.
It's not just about like accumulating wealth,
Mm-hmm.
but it's about the freedom and the agency that comes with it.
Okay.
And for this artist, that includes like who he wants to be with,
Yes.
even if it's just for a short time.
Even if it's just for a hot sec.
Yeah.
And he's not shying away from those details like the lines, got me a little to the car, got the whip, which one I'm a pick. It's like not gonna bitch or I'm gonna go to hit a lit. Like he's laying it all out there.
Yeah, the language is very raw and direct.
Yes.
And, it might be jarring to some listeners,
Sure.
but I think it's important to remember this is his way of expressing himself.
Yeah.
And it reflects a certain reality within his world.
Yeah, that's what makes it so interesting, right? It's not just about like judging the lyrics.
Right.
But like understanding the context and what they reveal about like his experience and his mindset.
Absolutely. And musically, this song uses like this driving beat
Yes.
and like a repetitive rhythm that really like amplifies that feeling of confidence and momentum.
Yeah.
It's like the music itself is pushing forward, just like the artist's ambition.
It's so true. Okay, so we've got this picture of ambition and making it in Bop. Let's shift gears to Full Moon by Fino.
Okay.
Here, the vibe is totally different. It's much more laid back, sensual.
Yeah, it seems to be all about escaping that everyday grind and indulging in pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
And you pointed out in your research that you were interested in how artists use music to create like a specific atmosphere. This song definitely nails that.
He paints a pretty vivid picture, too, with lines like, she's a midnight freak on the beach with a big butt, never want to actually music. Music is in the streets, but she's a freak on the beach. Plus, she loves the Peach House pool, the poozy, of course, the sheets. Of course we eat. Of course I made it.
Wow.
It's all about like sensory experiences, the sights, the sounds, and well, you get the idea.
Yeah, he's really using this imagery to transport the listener to this world of just like carefree enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
And the music itself reflects that, with this smooth melody and this relaxed tempo.
Yes.
It's like a complete departure from the driven energy of the last song.
It's so true, but they're both about escape in different ways.
Yeah.
One is about like achieving a certain level of material success,
Right?
while the other is about finding like pleasure and connection in the moment.
Yeah, and they both use very specific language and musical choices to achieve that.
Yes.
And it really highlights how artists can use these tools to craft a whole experience.
Yeah, a whole world. Okay, are you ready for a change of pace?
Yeah, let's do it.
Our third track, What Is It? Also from All Day Wedded, takes us on a completely different emotional journey.
Yeah.
This one gets really real about the complexities of relationships.
Yeah, this one stood out to you in your pre-show notes,
You did.
especially the artist's shift in tone
Yeah.
throughout the song. I'm curious to unpack that with you.
Yeah, he starts off by saying, I want to be real with you, be genuine, because you deserve that.
Yeah.
It seems like he's trying to be sincere and vulnerable, but then something changes.
Right. There's this tension between his desire for honesty
Yeah.
and his fear of getting hurt.
Yeah.
It's almost like he puts up a wall to protect himself.
Yeah. Yeah, and it comes out in lines like, I've been in this conversation 15 minutes and now it's time for me to talk about diving in it.
Yeah.
It's like he loses his patience and just wants to cut to the chase.
Right. And then there's that line you highlighted, easy,
Yeah.
you're fucking a sucker, or you're not talking about nothing,
Yeah,
which is very harsh.
it is.
But it reveals just how deeply he fears being taken advantage of.
Yes, and there's this inner conflict.
Yeah.
He wants a real connection,
Mm-hmm.
but he's also afraid of getting hurt.
Yeah.
And he even throws in lines like, I need it, but not in the worst way. I got other bitches I could call. Look at me, I ball and I'm nice.
Right.
It's like he's trying to downplay his feelings by reminding everyone how cool he is.
Exactly. It seems like that bravado is like a defense mechanism,
Yeah.
like a way of masking his vulnerability.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's his plea for honesty that really shines through.
Mm-hmm.
He wants a genuine connection, even if he struggles to express it directly.
It's fascinating how this one song takes us on such a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah.
1 minute he's trying to be smooth, and the next he's like laying his heart on the line.
And musically, it's interesting how the beat shifts throughout the song.
Yes.
It starts off mellow and almost seductive,
Mm-hmm.
but then it builds in intensity as his frustration grows.
Yeah.
It's like the music is mirroring that emotional arc.
It really does. So we've got these three very different expressions, ambition and making it in bop, escape through pleasure and full moon, and this raw plea for honesty in what is it?
Yeah.
It's amazing how much they're able to pack into their music.
It really is. And this is only a glimpse into what's happening in this world of independent
Yeah.
music on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying this exploration.
Yeah.
Curious to hear what else we uncover as we go deeper.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if this is like the new language of authenticity. You know, you got these artists on a platform like YouTube bypassing all the traditional gatekeepers and just putting their raw selves out there.
It's definitely a shift from the highly produced, polished music that dominates the mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about the content, it's about the connection.
Yeah.
You know, these artists are building these direct relationships with their listeners.
Yeah.
And that changes the whole dynamic.
Totally. It makes me think about the lyrics in a different light. Like when the artist in Bop talks about choosing fees.
Right.
It's not just about boasting. It's about like owning his power and his desires in a very like direct way.
Exactly. It's like a rejection of those traditional expectations and a celebration of individuality.
Yeah.
And when you think about like the historical context, especially within hip hop culture,
Yeah.
where artists have often used their music to challenge the status quo, it takes on an even deeper meaning.
You know, that makes me think about Full Moon in a New Light, too. At first, I was just focused on, like, the sensory experience and the escapism. But now I'm wondering if there's a deeper layer there as well.
What do you mean?
Well, he calls the woman a midnight freak,
Right.
which honestly could be interpreted in a few ways.
Yeah.
On the surface, it seems like he's just talking about her being adventurous and maybe a little wild.
Right.
But I'm wondering if it also speaks to a desire to break free from societal norms
Yeah.
and expectations around relationships.
That's a really interesting observation.
Yeah.
It could definitely be seen as like a rejection of traditional labels
Okay.
and a celebration of like a more free-spirited approach to love and sexuality.
Okay.
And the fact that he's choosing to express this through music on YouTube outside of the mainstream
Right.
further reinforces that idea.
Okay, so we've got these themes of individuality, authenticity, and a rejection of the status quo kind of running through Bop and Full Moon.
Yeah.
But what is it? Seems to take a slightly different approach.
You're right. It definitely focuses on a different aspect of the human experience, that longing for genuine connection.
Okay.
But even within that, there's this struggle between vulnerability and self-protection
Yes.
that feels very relatable.
It's like he wants to break down those walls, but he's also terrified of what might happen if he does.
And musically, I think that tension is reflected in the use of dissonance.
Okay.
And like those abrupt shifts in the beat, it creates this sense of unease and uncertainty that mirrors that like emotional turmoil that he's experiencing.
It's definitely not a feel-good track,
Right.
but it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
in its honesty.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder if this kind of raw emotional expression is actually more relatable to young people today than like the polished perfection of pop music.
Like, certainly possible.
Yeah.
You know, we live in a world where everyone is constantly curating their image online.
Right.
Maybe there's a sense of relief in hearing someone express their messiness and vulnerability so openly.
I think there's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
It's like a reminder that it's okay to not have it all figured out,
Right.
to feel those conflicting emotions.
And to express them,
Yes.
even if it's in a way that's not always pretty or polished.
Totally.
It's about being real,
Yeah.
even if it's messy.
So what does all of this tell us about contemporary culture? Are these YouTube artists leading the charge in a new era of self-expression? Or are they simply reflecting a shift that's already happening in society?
It's probably a bit of both.
Okay.
I think these artists are tapping into something that's already brewing,
Okay.
a desire for authenticity and a rejection of that like manufactured perfection that we're often bombarded with, you know?
Yeah, and by expressing themselves so openly,
Yeah,
they're giving permission to others to do the same.
exactly. They're creating a space for vulnerability, honesty, and realness.
Yes.
And that's a pretty powerful thing.
I think this is a perfect example of how music can be more than just entertainment.
Yeah.
It can be a reflection of our culture, a way to process our emotions,
Yeah.
and a catalyst for connection and change.
Absolutely. It's a language that transcends words, and it speaks to something deeper within us.
Yeah.
And it's something that's constantly evolving, just like we are.
All right, we've explored some pretty deep territory here. Yeah. From ambition and pleasure to the complexities of relationships and the desire for authentic expression. What are your biggest takeaways so far?
You know, what's striking me is the sheer diversity of experiences and perspectives that are on display here.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to life, love, or anything else.
Right.
And that's something to be celebrated.
I love that. What about you? What's standing out for you?
What's standing out to me is how much power these artists have to connect with their listeners on such a personal level.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they're bypassing all the filters and just speaking directly to our hearts and minds.
Yes.
And that's a pretty incredible thing.
So true. So before we wrap up our deep dive, let's bring it back to you, our listener. What are your thoughts on all of this? What's resonating with you? What's challenging your assumptions? We'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, it's been really cool to unpack these songs with you.
Yeah.
And to hear your insights. I feel like we've only just scratched the surface
I agree.
of what these artists are exploring. Yeah. And that's the beauty of music.
Yeah.
You know, it can be interpreted in so many different ways.
Totally.
What might seem like a simple boast to one person
Right.
could be a powerful statement of self-empowerment to another.
Exactly. And it all comes back to context. These artists are products of, their environments, their experiences, their communities.
Yeah.
And their music reflects that.
Absolutely. You mentioned in your notes that you were interested in how this new wave of like independent artists compares to more mainstream music.
Right.
I think that's a key question to consider.
Totally. Like, are these YouTube artists pushing the boundaries of self-expression, or are they simply reflecting a shift that's already happening in society at large?
I think it's a bit of both.
Okay.
You know, they're pushing boundaries by being so unfiltered and direct, but they're also tapping into this growing desire for authenticity and realness.
Yeah, and it's not just about the lyrics. It's about, like, the entire package. The
Yeah.
way they use YouTube as their platform, the way they interact with their fans, the visual elements in their videos, it's all part of creating this new landscape of musical expression.
It's like they're building their own worlds,
Yeah.
their own communities outside of like the traditional music industry.
Yeah.
And that's pretty exciting.
It makes you wonder what the future holds for music.
Yeah.
Will this kind of raw, unfiltered expression become the new mainstream? Or will it always occupy a space outside of the traditional structures?
That's a tough question to answer.
It is.
But one thing is for sure, these artists are having an impact. They're changing the way we think about music,
Yeah.
self-expression and connection.
And they're proving that you don't need a record label or a fancy studio to make powerful music that resonates with people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that creativity can flourish anywhere,
Yes.
and that the most powerful stories are often the ones that come from the heart, without any filters or pretense.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought.
Okay.
Keep exploring. Keep digging deeper into the music that speaks to you.
Yeah.
Pay attention to the lyrics, the music, the context.
Right.
And don't be afraid to challenge your own assumptions about what music can be and what it can say about our world.
Well said. There's a whole universe of music out there waiting to be discovered.
So true.
And who knows, maybe you'll even be inspired to create something of your own.
That's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah.
Music has this incredible power to move us, to connect us, and to inspire us. So keep listening, keep exploring, and keep the conversation going. Until next time.